as the central banks buy more and more and more and more and more and more. It's classic misdirection. It's classic big money front running the small money, the dumb money doing the wrong thing when the big money is doing the right thing.
This week's deals from Miles Franklin are 1 ounce 2024 Eagles 550 over spot. We also have 90% constitutional silver dimes and quarters 275 over spot, and 10th ounce gold Eagles $51 over melt. We have a massive inventory, all great prices. Text, email, or call slayer@milesfranklin.com. I'd be happy to help. And now let's get into the video.
Well, you got our debt increasing right now. It increased from March 1st to March 20th by a total of $168 billion in 20 days. Our funding bill just passed to 1.2 trillion funding bill debt, of which $850,000 thankfully goes to LGBTQ senior housing. Why do they have to throw the LGBTQ in there? Why can't they just call it senior housing? Biden, this moronic president of ours, has for the third time in a row drained the strategic petroleum reserve down to its lowest level ever and vetoed filling it back up. Our debt is increasing by $1.25 trillion and the interest expense by $100 billion a quarter. And so we are entering that period of time where things are going to start to get really, really, really real. That's why you saw the Fed not lower rates. And in a normal environment, higher rates are bad for gold because gold yields nothing in comparison. But now high rates are actually good for gold. And I don't think many people understand this. To me, what it symbolizes is the world has no interest in our bonds anymore. And so the Fed has to come in and ultimately they're going to be the ones that monetize gold, making rates go higher, which will lead to or actually, excuse me, making rates go lower. Monetize meaning they're going to buy the bonds, but that leads to hyperinflation, which ultimately leads to much higher rates. They're in a pickle, and right now the rising rates, the correlations really don't matter, right? And the Chinese and the Russians and the Indians, they don't care about high yields and the correlation between real interest rates and the price of gold and silver. They don't care about a strong dollar and how that negatively impacts the demand for silver. They don't care about a gold-silver ratio. They don't care about any of that. They just want the metal. They want the commodities. They don't care what it costs. China's been mining gold and silver for years, even when it was uneconomical. They were mining it, when it was 300, 400, 500 an ounce, and it cost them $1,000 to pull it out of the ground. They didn't care. It looks like a genius now, using our trade imbalance to do so. So yeah, I think that, you're going to start to see things get. I mean, it looks like the debt crisis is getting more like a debt spiral, and the flowing of gold from west to east is now a real wealth transfer from west to east, and I think it's sad how much the West is underestimating the significance of what's happening. And these countries are selling bonds and replacing the proceeds with gold, and that's the bottom line, and silver, and you're beginning to see it. And rates aren't going lower, inflation's not going away, the economy's going to get worse. This is just beginning, and I wish again I wasn't such a buzzkill, but this is getting real, and quietly doing so with the public completely out of the picture, not noticing what's going on. It is getting busier again right now, but I think gold has been rallying because of the buying of by the central banks, and also because the market and the world has realized the corner that the Fed has painted themselves into. They can't raise rates, and they can't and won't stop spending. So what you gonna do? You're spending and going into a debt by $1.25 trillion, and you can't stop. You're addicted to it, and you can't raise rates or you blow it all up. What are you going to do? So this is at the same time we've seen net outflows out of the ETFs to almost $6 billion. The public selling gold into the rally and buying Nvidia and Bitcoin, as the central banks buy more and more and more and more and more and more. It's classic misdirection. It's classic big money front running, the small money, the dumb money doing the wrong thing when the big money is doing the right thing. And all of the attention that's given to the parabolic rises, and maybe rightfully so, they has been pretty impressive with Nvidia and Bitcoin, is being ignored by the gold crowd. And yet when we talk about gold, like it's this pet rock, it's averaged a 9.2% annual compounding return since 2000. It's up almost 900% since the beginning of the century. And so you tell me, is this a big deal or not? I think it is, and I think this is going to be a very, very crazy next few months as we lead to October and November. And I hope people are paying attention and loading up right now on silver, which is the most undervalued, underappreciated asset on the planet that has more uses and utilities and need than people even can begin to imagine. So, yeah, you're doing God's work. You are. You're doing something that you should be able to look yourself in the mirror every night and say, I'm doing the right thing. It's one of the reasons I'm so proud to be associated with you and my company associated with you because, you get it. A lot of people don't. Sometimes getting it is difficult because you want to help so
Yeah.
many people. And there are a lot of people who maybe don't get it.
I like how you mentioned it's not just a pet rock. These are elements on the periodic table, like your tattoo. Like gold and silver aren't created in the Earth's crust. They get here by meteors and comets. And silver being the most highly conductive metal, it literally cannot be replaced. We're talking about elements on the periodic table. So, because I hear that a lot too, is like, silver will get replaced someday by something. It's like, by what? Copper is a close second in terms of electrical conductivity, but the quality's so poor, it would actually cost more to replace silver with copper. It really is. It's like a magical metal. Like in ancient times, they thought silver was magic because it could purify water with its antimicrobial properties and how it responds to other elements. Like they literally thought silver was like this piece of magic.
Maybe it is,
Yeah,
and
it
maybe magic
yeah,
is should be more broadly defined. I mean, look at
yeah,
it has the greatest conductivity in light and in heat and in electricity and purification, like you said, in water, and it's used in medical devices. And maybe it is. I mean, it came from the
huh,
heavens, right? When
yeah,
someone once told me that, I remember I had been in the business for a few years. I'm like, oh, bullshit, it doesn't. And I Googled it. I'm like, yeah, it does. It came from meteors crashing into the earth, and it's pretty crazy when you read that. So yeah, you know what?
yeah,
You're spot on. And I think there are bigger institutions like the government of India who understands that very well. And
yeah,
unfortunately, we are focused on you know things that are designed to make you lots of money if you hit it right, but also carry a tremendous amount of risk right now. And I think there are a lot of people who would do very well in this environment to take a little bit of the profit off the table and put it into silver. And if you own Bitcoin, it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. You can sell some Bitcoin, keep your investment, but put some of your profits into silver. We do take Bitcoin through BitPay Link. People want to trade some of their Bitcoin
yeah,
that have had a great run and put it into kind of like taking chips off the table, do that. And it's not a bad idea. But the public is focused on greed, and that can very quickly change to fear. And when you realize, I think that the Fed has put the market in a very dangerous position by allowing it to rise the way that it has parabolically in a rising interest rate environment. And at some point, that's going to trigger. I mean, if rates go higher, which I anticipate ultimately they will because inflation's not going away. That's not good for the market, especially one that has been pushed up by just a handful of equities. When you look at the Russell 2000, which is a much broader measure of the economy, most of those stocks, almost all of them are down. So it's not the economy that's doing well. It's not the stock market that's doing well. It's a couple of companies that are doing well, and that's dangerous. So take some profit. Don't ride it back down. Put it into an asset that one of the few assets that hasn't been blown to all-time highs. So, you know, I I just think that the carnage when this all happens is going to be severe, and I keep waiting for it to happen It seems to me we're getting closer to that moment, brother.
Yeah, like they say 90% of the movement happens the last 10%, something a lot of people don't realize, especially with silver since it's so slow. It's like precious metals. I feel like some people try to compare to like cryptocurrency. It's like it's not the same thing. It's not. And based more on fundamentals, which is actually a good thing, less off speculation. But unfortunately, speculation still plays a huge part. But like Ted
Well,
Butler
that will
always
change
says,
because
yeah,
you
yeah,
that will change in an environment where speculation was easy to do because no one was standing for delivery.
yeah,
And
yeah,
now to hold it down and to push it down unnaturally with leverage is a very dangerous game. I always say people who don't think that can end up badly need to listen to Chris Marcus's, my buddy Chris Marcus, Arcadia Economics. Google Chris Marcus, Arcadia Economics. Um, Bart Chilton, former head of the CFTC, who admitted that Bear Stearns went bankrupt because they had the largest silver short position, and silver went from 9 to 21, and it bankrupted them. And then he died a week later. So, when
huh,
you talk about that happening, about it bankrupting institutions or hedge funds or commercial banks who are stupid enough to be short, like a mud wall stupid, in this environment, well, they'll get what they deserve, I guess, if they're that stupid. And there are very few things that I would feel less comfortable shorting right now than gold and silver in a market where the rest of the world understands what it really represents. The opposite of opaque debt instruments that can be confiscated if we don't align ideologically with those who hold our treasuries.
yeah. Like when we're folks, when we're talking about the COMEX or like price suppression, it's a lot deeper than just like spoofing, like where you have like JP Morgan just placing a false buy or sell order, canceling it before it goes through. Like it's a lot bigger than that. Like Andy said, it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. These contracts, these people think they have that silver stored somewhere. It says, but it's not actually there. That silver is non-existent. Like every ounce of silver you hold in your hand, a whole bunch of other people think they own that same exact ounce, but they don't. And that's why I always say, like, if you can't hold it, you don't own it. It's something that a lot of people don't understand is how suppression really works or
And not
how
only that, they don't have to pay for
real.
it, just have money in their margin account. So it
Yeah.
allows them to take huge positions.
Yeah.
And that goes both ways. And they can take a massive short position. And it doesn't cost them. They just have to have a massive amount of money sitting in their margin account.
Mm.
Okay, great. If it goes against them, they're in big trouble. But if it doesn't, they can in essence create a perception of reality.
Like what the Hunt brothers did, which is still what silver's highest price has been till this day, right? Last time the
It's the
COMEX
same
got pushed.
environment now that it was then. They noticed that there were way more contracts issued than bars backing them. So they bought up all the contracts and stood for delivery. And the exchange said, well, if we don't change the rules, we're going to blow up. So they changed the rules and said, well, you can be
Yeah.
short all you want, but you can only be long a certain amount. So were forced then to sell their contracts to drive the price
Yeah.
down, or they would have gone to jail.
Silver rule 7.
Yeah.
That's what the
You're a
rule was.
smart man. And I hope people out there understand that. I hope people are calling you to buy metals when they want to buy them because
Yeah.
you've earned it from the public. You've worked selflessly for a very, very long time. I am honored to have you as part of the Miles Franklin team, and I hope people who are watching this who are thinking of buying silver call you and exploit your wisdom. That's what it's all about, and have a relationship. Because I know that when I need you, you're always there, and I hope people understand that is to me the greatest compliment I can pay someone in business. And please, if you're going to buy silver, give a call, and he will treat you very, very, very well. I know that. I've had nothing but compliments from the people you work with.